Hi guys. Basically we're gonna start using the capture one because I either use my capture one or Lightroom, but I'll be using like capture one for this. So how I start my retouching is I tend to like adjust my either my whites, my I tend to like adjust that straight from capture one. So that's my raw processing tool. Then after I've done this, then I send it down to Photoshop for the retouching, how to like the skin and blending of every other thing. So guys, this is capture one, as you can see. Uh, okay. So first thing first, guys, I click on my white balance. I try selecting my white balance. Um, So first and first, guys, I select my white balance. After I select my white balance by clicking here, so I could select the white points in my image, or I already use a gray card in the picture to select my white balance. So I'm going to select the white point in the picture and not the overexposed point, just a white point in the picture. That could still give me what I want as my white balance. And you can see the color just changed from being a green tint to more of the normal color of the model. Yeah, so I move on to my calls, my levels. So you can see the darkest point, as you can see, is black. That's your black point. The middle point is your mid tone. The white point is your white. So what I do is I drag my white to the beginning of where the curve starts in there, and I also drag my black point so it adds contrast to my picture. I always do this with virtually all pictures I retouch. Then I move on to my clarity. My clarity. I tend to adjust my clarity because clarity affects the midtone of your pictures. I increase my clarity in my images. Um, After doing that, I move on to trying to blend the skin tone of my subject. By doing that, I go down to my um, this layer up here. I create a new layer. I rename it as skin. After renaming this as skin, I'm going to long press this brush button and I'm going to select it from always. I'm going to select it to um, always display mask. Yeah. So because I want to select the area where I want to change the skin tone, because I can see her face looks good, but her neck is like a little bit discolored from her face. So I'm going to paint on her neck area. I'm going to paint on her neck area, which I want to be the adjusted color. So I'm painting here. Ignore the red symbols you're seeing or the red colors you're seeing, as I'm going to remove them by long pressing that same brush again, and I'm going to change it back to only display mask when drawing. So after doing this, I'm now going to go and select my color editor because I want to blend the skin tone, and I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. This eyedropper tool, which I will select the skin tone which I want to, the face which I didn't highlight because I want that part to look like the face. So I'm going to pick on somewhere I feel has a little bit of mid-tone of what I want. I'm going to select that part. You can see it made the selection for me. So now I will now have to move down to my uniformity. I want to make both of them uniform. So I'm going to drag my hue layer to a point where I know, okay, it's going to look just like the top point. So I feel it looks good this way. You need to train your eyes on how to see this. So and I'm also going to adjust my saturation, either increase or reduce my saturation, just how I feel like. So I feel the skin looks blended. They look alike this time. Then I can now proceed by sending my images to Photoshop. So what I do is I click on I right click, and then I'm going to edit with Photoshop. So these are my setting. I like sending as a PSD file, not a TIFF file. There's nothing wrong with the TIFF file, but this is just what I like. Then I like sending as 16-bit file because it has more color coded compared to 8-bit file. Then my resolution is 300, my scale fixed. So I did variants. I click on edit variant, it automatically sends to Photoshop. Yeah, so the image is on Photoshop right now, and first thing I do is I do my frequency separation in the picture. So I tend to go to my actions. These actions which are provided for you, or if you don't have don't attach a link below for you to download these actions. Um, so I basically just click on my action, which is either you use retouch academy, it's all the same thing. So I click on my actions, I click on either simple frequency separation or advanced frequency separation, but I make sure it's a 16 bit, is the 16 bit, because you can see it highlighted 16 bit, 8 bit. I make sure I use the 16 bit since I sent the image as a 16 bit file. So I click on it, then it brings down the drop down, and this is the most important part which you guys need to know here. You can either make or make your image this way. So for really close up images, I tend to put my radius in about from 8 to 14 or 8 to 12. But for like three-quarter images, I put my radius in about 4 4 to 6. Then for full length pictures, my radius is about from 2 to 4. So it ranges, it varies per images, but this is my own personal settings I tend to use. So you need to have this in mind, because if you have your radius really low for like this kind of tight close-up portrait in about 2, you tend to like make your image look really plasticky and smudgy. That's how it looks like when time I do that. But since this is not my type of this is not my workflow, that's not how I want my image to look like. So that's why I tend to use these radiuses, and they've been working really good for me. I create a duplicate of my low frequency layer. That's by just dragging it to this layer icon. It creates a duplicate that way. Then after creating a duplicate, I go down to like select my mixer brush tool. After selecting, and my settings are 30, 30, 30 each. I want you to start with 30 each if you're just starting out, but these are my current settings since I'm already like used to it, so I can play around it easily. So I create everything as all 30, and also I make sure this icon here is like, I select this brush here, and I make sure this icon here is grayed out. So after doing that, now I love creating a black and white layer so I can actually see what I'm doing clearly. After I create the black and white layer, alongside I create the curve layer, I darken it so I can see my brush clearly. After doing this, this is when I click on low frequency, which is the copy layer which I already did, and then I start brushing. We have midtones, we have highlights, and we have shadow. And the way I brush, I make sure I don't take the shadow into the highlights, or I don't take the highlights into the shadow area, because if you do that, you're going to make your image look really smudgy. So you need to be very, very cautious in this part. You need to paint your shadows on your shadows, you paint your highlight on your highlight, and the mid-tone area, yes, this is the tricky part. You just need to find a way to blend both the highlight and mid-tone together. So what I do is I tend to like use a larger brush to paint both the highlight and mid-tone side together. So because if you paint only the highlight side and you paint only the shadow side, you see you're just having like different strokes. So you need to blend them together. Yeah, so then I move on to my high frequency layer. The way high frequency works is I click on the clone stamp tool, and yes, I make sure I'm on current layer and not current and below. It needs to be on current layer, because if I use the current and below, watch this. If I use the clone stamp tool by clicking on the alt tool to select the good side and take my hand off alt and click on the bad side, you can see the funny color it's giving me. That's because I'm on current and below, so don't make that mistake. Always be on current layer. So now that I'm on current layer, to remove this blemish, I need to click on alt, select the good side, then I take my hand off alt, then I click on the blemish or the bad side, the place I don't want, then it takes it out. So I keep doing that. So I need to speed this up. So that's it, guys, for the high frequency layer. It removes all spot and blemishes. So now that I'm done with my um, frequency separation, I move on to my Dodge and Burn, which I already sent, or I have the link below for you guys to download my Dodge and Burn action. So I click on my dodge and burn. I press the play button right below it to play it. Then you see my dodge and burn. So the lower one is my dodge, then the higher one is my burn. The dodge is the curve 2, the burn is the curve 3. Burn simply means darken, dodge means brighten. It's just like adding highlight to your picture, and burn is to add shadows to your picture. And you know, shadow and highlight creates dimension, and you want your images to look three-dimensional, except here is a reason why you want your image to look 2D. So I love my images looking three-dimensional to have depth. That's the reason why I'm having my dodge and burn layer to do this for me, because when you do your frequency separation, you tend to make the images flat. So I don't want that. That's the reason why I'm doing my dodge and burn layer. So watch this, guys. I'll pick my normal brush this time, not my mixer brush. You need to be careful of that too. So I pick my normal brush, and I make sure my brush is on a soft brush and not a hard brush. And I put my flow in either 1, 2, or 3, because I like building up my images. So I love building up. I paint slowly. I paint on a part. When you have your flow really low, you tend to like just keep painting on a part before it reveals what you're doing. So I love painting that way. I love doing my dodge and burn this way. So I put my flow in 1, I leave my opacity in 100, and I make sure I'm using a soft brush. And yes, guys, you can always still use that same black and white layer and the curve layer you created earlier to do your dodge and burn. I love using black and white because I actually see what I'm doing better when I use this. So using a soft brush, which I'm going to change right now. Yeah, change my brush to a soft brush, and then I'll start painting. And you can see the way you want to dodge your image, especially for female subject. You paint on the forehead, on top of the nose, under the cheek area, or under the eyes, then under the chin. These are the places you need to like highlight, just as makeup artist does. You can sit down one day and watch the way your makeup artist um do their makeup for their subject, and you'll be able to understand what the dodge and burn really is. So right now I'm dodging, doing the same thing, making this part darker, making this other part darker. And yes, guys, that's what I do. And guys, as you can see, this is the before and after of the image. You can see subtlety is everything. Do everything subtle. We don't want any dramatic change in our picture. I love doing things subtle, and that's just it, guys. So I'm going to brighten my subject eyes because her eyes is looking a little bit dim. So what I'm going to do here is um I'll click on my this icon down here that looks like this round one. I'm going to create a photo filter. Yes, this one. I'm going to click on it. Then it brings down a drop down. I'm going to go to my photo filter. When I click on my photo filter, then I'll change it from the warming filter to the cooling filter, because this automatically changes the color of my image. As you can see there, it looks this. I could actually color grade an image using this also, but I just want to brighten my subject eyes right now. That's the reason why. So I'm going to change it to my cooling filter. Click on the drop down. Click on my cooling filter 82. And the next thing I'll do is create a I'm going to paint, I'm going to invert it. After I create change it to my cooling filter, I'm going to invert it because it's affecting all of my images. Pressing Ctrl I, I will invert it to make it black. As you guys know, black height and white reviews. So I'll change it to black by pressing Ctrl I. Then I'm going to use a white brush, using a normal brush to paint in that color which I just added from the photo filter. So now my eyes is looking a little bit white, but still has this little bit of bluish tint to it, which I don't really like. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a black and white layer to it. the adjustment layer, I'm going to add a black and white. I'll click on my black and white. Then I'm now going to click on the arrow tool, which is arrow, because I want to link it down to the next, to the previous layer. So I'm either going to go on this part and press my alt button to link it together. As you can see, it is not affecting the general image, it's affecting just the previous layer. The eye color has changed, but it's looking too dim for me. It's looking too black and white, which I can always reduce the opacity of this particular layer. Now I'll do that is yeah, reduce the opacity to make it look good. So guys, now I move on to doing my color grade. What I do is I click on this low layer and I go to my color lookup. I click on my color lookup and I come down to where this abstract is, the load abstract. I click on it, then I come down to lightness decrease. Then after clicking this and kaboom, I have this really dark skin tone. I use this for more of my dark skin subject. It really works real good. So if I feel it's too much, I reduce my opacity of this particular stuff. So I just reduce my opacity to where I feel looks good. I can add a curve layer to also brighten it up a little bit. And this is the way I tend to do my color grade for dark skin subjects. And you guys can just, color grade is a thing. It's a thing of like should I call it personal preference? Yeah, you just play around with everything. I could decide to just play around with everything until you feel, until you get what works for you. That's just how it works, guys. So guys, you can always try new things out, and I hope you've understood everything I've said today. Thank you very much. Bye.